Yeah.
And the big question, do we put this at the beginning of the video to see how many people we can get? Hot chip versus PeaBee. Sorry, it is here. It's always going to be at the back of the flight briefing rule. Does it have to be a hot chip to compete? And can the PeaBees compete alongside the big boys? Right, hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel in the flight briefing room. And this week, Owain Johns, who we did an interview a couple of weeks ago, has decided to invade the flight briefing room again to do the promised follow-up interview about the Open series. But I'm not going to jump too far into the questions then. So, Owain, welcome back. Back for another grilling, are we?
Yeah, foolishly, I think so. Yeah.
So we did actually get some reasonable engagement with the last video we did, and I think you took a load of questions away from the sort of event you did that evening, didn't you? You did a follow-on evening.
Yeah, the Thursday night we did an online briefing with a Zoom club call, I suppose, through the BMAA, and we had a good 35, 40 pilots or so who were interested. So we got some questions and hope to give you a flavour from that evening as well.
I think as it was in Juice Bank, I think you subscribed to that, so hopefully you got some more information from that Zoom meeting. Anyway, back to the interview, back to the grilling. Let's get on with it. So the one question I've got is, it's gone from the Nationals, which sounds big, grandiose, and the Open series. What was the reason? What's the difference between the Nationals and the Open series? There's got to be a reason behind that.
Yeah, the reasoning behind it is that we were finding that we were getting depleted numbers of people taking part. I think the Nationals in their previous concept were great, fantastic events, but a little bit exclusive. And I think a number of pilots commented that they couldn't necessarily, they weren't accessible. I think that's the right kind of word. And one or two people had thought to themselves, okay, I've got a spot landing. I'm going to switch my engine off. I'm going to come back with limited amount of fuel, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. So I think 2017, we realized we were at Popham in 2016 at the World Championships. We had a team of 10, 12 people there. Good, team gold, brilliant. But the following year, numbers just plateaued. And we said to ourselves, right, what can we do about this?
Was there any identifiable reason why those numbers depleted?
Well, I think it builds on that inclusive, exclusive. You've got a number of people who are flying in the team, who are flying instructors, flying day in, day out. And if you've got a club pilot who's had their license a year or two, they're 100, 150 hours, they're looking for something new. It wasn't within their reach. It was that little bit further for them. So what we've done is we've kind of created this stepping stone, I think would be a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
We've taken out some of the higher risk. And actually that came up in the thread on the YouTube. One or two people there talked about peer pressure and doing things that are flying that you wouldn't normally do, and doing something comp that you wouldn't normally do. So I think that's the whole principle behind the Open series. We've made it more accessible, and we're hoping that, I think, by doing the online forum as well, that people could hear about it, and then there isn't that sort of fear of walking into a marquee on a Friday night or a Saturday morning and feeling like the newbie. It's important.
Well, I'm going to use your segue there of fear and not knowing what to walk into. So actually, can you talk me through what a typical weekend would be? Because a lot of people's fear stems from the unknown. So the more we can do to kind of override that and give them confidence to know what to expect. Talk me through a typical weekend.
Well, I think you've got to perceive it just like you would a fly-in. So I'm going to use an analogy of, okay, I'm going to go to the Isle of Wight. I'm going to go down to Sandown. I'm going to pack my tent. I'm going to set off either on Friday night or Saturday morning. Yeah, I'm going to plan the flight first of all. And if you see it like that, no problem. But rather than arriving there and then sitting around enjoying some lovely food and going to the coast and going back, you say, right, I'm going to do something meaningful whilst you're there. So Friday night, I prefer finish work, jump in the trike, put the tent, sleeping bag, get there, settle up, set up your tent and just, feel comfortable with the environment, make sure your aircraft's ready. Saturday morning, safety briefing, followed by a briefing. And then you've got your first task, which usually is an hour and a half navigation task, finishing back for lunch, another briefing, afternoon task, and then in the evening, some precision landings, and then a barbecue and some food and chat. I know I'm, keeping it quite short, but that's the flavour really. Sunday, briefing again, one more task, finish for lunch, jump in your machine, fly home. Done.
So basically, what I took away is flying, barbecue, and meeting people. Sounds
Yeah.
very much like a flying to me.
It's that simple. It's that simple, Giles. There's your grilling for you. There's
There's
your
a grilling.
grilling.
There's a grilling. As long as there's a barbecue, we're all sorted.
Yeah, yeah.
There's building on that, and the bit that I like. I'm very reflective in the way I fly. People have probably noticed that with the way I just go and practice landings, because I get annoyed that I stop being able to land and then suddenly I work it out again. What plans are in place on those sort of weekends for that supported mentoring piece? I'm kind of linking in, you've touched on it and we touched on it a lot before, that peer pressure and comfort zone to help them expand their comfort zone, not work outside it, because then they'll be in stress and they'll be outside peak performance, but expand their comfort zone, but also be in control of that peer pressure element. What processes are in place for that to happen?
Well, what we've got a buddying sort of mentoring program in place. We've got a number of experienced pilots who've flown at a national and an international level, who are prepared to come along and give their time. They'll obviously fly in the weekend, but because they are experienced, they can afford to talk through the planning and co-plan. They can sit down and give some hints and tips. And also, when I say, the co-planning, they can also say, look, just focus on these elements first and foremost. Focus on making sure you're on track. Let's not worry about the time for the first task. Let's worry about being on track and making sure you've got track accuracy, and then everything will follow. So it's just not taking on too much. And hopefully what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to pair trike pilots with trike pilots, 3-axis pilots with 3-axis, because that's quite different. I fly trikes, 2-seat trike. That's what I'll pair up with. We've got Colin, who flies a Dragon Chaser. He'll pair up with some single-seat trike pilots, because there's slight different, workload issues and things like that as well. But that will ensure that people are going out and not just jumping in at the deep end. They're jumping in the shallow end. Well, not jumping. They're walking into the shallow end, with the kind of support they need, really.
And that's always been my biggest fear of this. And that's hopefully what those that are watching this interview can take away is we're trying to dispel the fear. As much as I have had a yearning to try and fly to the best of my ability, it's not quite on my radar yet. There's a good friend of mine, Scott, that's messaged me recently about this, and it's again, he's got a PeaBee. It's on his radar. He likes to do that and wants to know how to do it. So hopefully we can bring that in more people from single seat, twin seats, flex wing, 3-axis more into that field, because you get a lot of single seat 3-axis as well. How do they do it? I'm the sort of person that would like to practice as much as I can, and the weather in the UK is not always suitable, but I can always feel there are people saying, can I use a flight simulator to practice this? What would your advice be to that?
I think it's you've got to really get some airtime. I think it's fair to say, the kind of level we're talking about. If you're looking at a flight simulator, then that's maybe giving you some airtime with your training and giving you some sort of idea about procedures and planning and things like that. But you can't be drawing a line on a chart and going up and practicing. And it only has to be simple triangles or whatever it might be, quarter mil chart. And you've got to just start to become a little bit more comfortable. So that, again, I think we talked about workload in the previous one. It's managing workload. So if you are familiar and you've done a couple of practice tasks at your own time, in your own machine, in nice weather that you feel comfortable, and also in your local environment, you can't beat doing that. But actually, that just prepares you. So I'm afraid, the kind of simulator thing, the only thing I would say, and in some cases, I've been doing it a bit recently, where looking at photos and looking at environments, preparing for the Czech Republic, just using a bit of Google Earth to get familiar with the environment.
Let's fly over, drag it down with the mouse, drag it down with the mouse.
Drag it down with the mouse, crop and things like that. But even then, you're only picking up major features. I think you've got to get out and do it, really.
Yeah. You touched on the fact that this, I almost feel like labelling this as, open series is just a big fly-in. What are the expected costs? So someone wants to pitch up, what are the costs like?
Well, the costs are the same as a big fly-in with an entry fee, really. We're fortunate to be flying out of relatively, supportive environments. So Courtney at New Farm, he wants to encourage people to be there. So he'll be looking for a contribution. That's the usual way it does it. Preston Capes, we've got a farmer there who's got a charity who likes a donation.
Yeah.
Mark up at Darley Moor is probably looking for people to spend lots of money in the bar on the Saturday night and support and his vibrant
Yeah.
airfield. I think
Yeah.
so there's an entry fee which is usually in the region of 20, 25 pounds or so.
Yeah.
But it's not significantly more expensive than your weekend. So I suppose it's how much food you want to eat at the barbecue and how much fuel you put in your machine. Really, that's
Fair
the way I
enough.
would see it.
I
Yeah,
suppose a good way of looking at it.
yeah.
And the big question: do we put this at the beginning of the video to see how many people we can get? Hot chip versus PeaBee. Sorry, it is here. It's always going to be at the back of the flight briefing rule. PBs are the love of my life in the flying sense, as it were. And we've already touched on the fact of does it have a single seat and the like. Does it have to be a hot chip to compete? And can the PBs compete alongside the big boys?
Of course they can. It's not machine orientated, and that's something I should have put in at the start. The Open Series, some of the nationals became a little bit who's got the fastest machine, who's got the machine that can go the quickest. Oh, I've got a quick car, then I'm going to win. Yeah. So we've taken those sorts of speed elements out. So anybody, the best pilot, in any machine, and I'll use an example. Tim Burrow flies a blade. He won't mind me saying this, an elderly blade. It's 30 years vintage, I think. With a 912 on the back, and won one of the rounds that we organised at Oakley. And Colin flies a Dragon Chaser, single seat. So a PeaBee, there's no reason why anybody can't participate and do well and enjoy themselves regardless of the machine. You might spend a little bit longer up on a task, obviously, but you've also got the fact that you've got no pod, or in your case, a small pod.
Yeah.
And you can certainly see more. So in some respects, there's advantages and disadvantages, but we've tried to take the machine advantage out of an Open Series event in a big way.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of happy. So Scott, yeah, that's answered your question, buddy. The next one and a key one is: so someone's interested, where do they go? How do they find out how to sign up?
BMAA website very, very shortly. Hopefully, by the time this goes live, there's a section there, and you can sign up for any of the events. Ideally, we'd like people to try and sign up for as many as they can take part in. But you'll see the dates, you'll see the organizer, and we'll go from there. We've also got the Open Series Facebook page where there's all the information you need as well.
Cool. I'm pretty sure I left a link to that in the last video, but if I haven't, I will put the links to both those, the BMAA website for the sign up and the Facebook group in the description. So if you haven't seen that, it's down the bottom. Most people look on their phones, but go to the down arrow and it'll be all in there. We made the first video about becoming a bit of a better pilot, and that was kind of a little bit of a lead into the comp side of things, because that's clearly where your passion lies. I get the feeling from our chats offline, it's not about being the absolute 100% pilot on day one at Courtney's at the first event, is there? There's 4 events, so it's Courtney's. What was it? I've lost my notes. No, my phone's hiding it. Preston Capes, then Darley Moor, and then the home of the comps at the end is Plaistows, obviously. Is there an element of sort of incremental improvement? And I suppose that's partly to try and remove some of that peer pressure and pressure on the pilots. Would you agree with that?
Very much so. And I think people, back to the point we discussed a little bit earlier about peer pressure and things, you've got to set yourself a manageable goal. You've got to say to yourself, I don't know, I'm going to fly a task. There's 8 photos. I'll be happy first event at Courtney's, I'll be happy with 44 pictures, 50%. That's fine. Yeah. And then the next one, I'm going to aim for one more. I'm going to aim for one more, and just that incremental improvement, because those photos, which mark your track accuracy in effect, they are differentiated. So there's an easy one that everybody gets. It's a bloody great big pond, in a stately home or something, shaped like something quite interesting. Who knows what it might be? And then there's a really cheeky little shed on the side of a field or something.
I was just thinking that someone's going to have a green shed that's painted behind several trees, and it's the one you'll never find.
Well, there's people like Rob Keane who set 1 or 2 tasks, and he'll set a picture of a lake, and then there's all boats in it when you fly over, and it looks completely different. So he's got the picture where they were in there. Or somebody did one once with a load of solar panels which look like a lake, and you look at it, and you go, it's a lake, and actually when you get over it, it's solar panels which can look like lakes. But they're the difficult ones, and it's for round 4. That's for Plaistows, not for Courtney's a new farm. Does that make sense? I think that does building it up nicely.
I kind of look at that as the kind of athlete's 1% rule. You change 1% on everything, and even from your own practice, am I good at adjusting for the errors that I'm generating? And the next bit is, like you said, find 4 I'll work up to that. Why? And then that reflective piece. So we touched on that
Yeah.
mentoring piece. Is that where people will be able to help as well in going, right, I only found 4 this time. How can I improve?
Without a doubt, art to it, and it's not about having the biggest memory. It's about picking up features on the photos. So, for example, you'll always find a sewage farm on the outside of a village. There's one for your start of your film, Giles. And you won't find them at the top of a hill for obvious reasons. Yeah. Large features, railway lines, where will they be going, and how do they feature with the kind of contours and stuff? So it's not remembering the photos; it's thinking where they will go. And even a simple thing, but like a magnifying glass and looking in at the chart and identifying a potential point at which a crossroads will be before you go means that you're looking at certain times. You're looking for undulations, you're looking for flat features, all those sorts of things. So that's the type of thing where 10 minutes with a mentor can give you, to reduce the workload in the air. That's what I think we're trying to get to.
Brilliant. Okay. You've spoken a lot about the tasks, what to look for. We've mentioned about finding the sewage farm, always at the bottom of a hill, not at the top, etc. And that cheeky shed that's hidden somewhere. Have you got any examples of someone actually, because we live in the world of videos, clearly we're making a video now, that somebody can go and look at to give them an example of what a task might look like?
Yes, we did a clip for the online briefing. Colin Johnson, I've mentioned him a few times, single-seater, dragon chaser. He did a mock task, and he talks it through on YouTube. The link will be you can put it in the bio, please.
Yes, I will. I'll put that down there.
6 minutes. It's nice and short. He talks about measuring. He talks about looking out for features, not sewage farms or sheds. No, there is a sewage farm in it. There you are. You can look out for it.
There's always a sewage farm. There's always a sewage farm.
There's a challenge for you. There is a sewage farm, and he then goes and flies it with a little bit of aerial footage as well. But it's a really nifty little insight. 6 minutes of anybody's time just to give you a flavour of what to expect.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So if anyone's interested, as Owen's just said, there will be a link to that video in the description, because save you having to sit through 6 minutes of this video. Go and watch that and say feedback to us if there's anything else you'd like to try and see. And maybe throughout the year, I think Owen and I have got some plans to try and do some more vlogging for my channel. Me sat in the back. I think you were calling me self-loading baggage, didn't you, at that point?
Self-loading ballast, yeah.
Self-loading ballast, that was it. Self-loading ballast. So hopefully we'll try and vlog a task and get a bit more of a feel of how that goes. Owen, there's so much information. I can genuinely feel the passion for oozing out of you. I would like more people to come and fly comps. Yeah. There's clearly those that do want to fly. There's clearly those that want to try and learn how to fly better and participate. Yeah. If they don't want to fly, can they also come along and help?
Of course they can. They can put on a high vis for the precision landings. They can help out and do some timings. They can dial some numbers into a spreadsheet, and they can watch and they can learn from doing that. And I think anybody who's keen, even if you haven't got your license, you want to just come along and participate and spectate, you're very welcome. I think all the airfield owners that we know will be keen to see more people being involved in flying. Full stop. So they're very welcome to come. Yeah.
This is almost harping back to that. It's just a big fly-in.
Yeah,
I think we're going to call that title of the video. It's just a big fly-in. So brilliant. Owen, thank you so much for that. This kind of pretty much wraps up the video. It's going to be a lot shorter than last time, but there's so much detail in here. Owen and I could talk for hours on this because, again, I'm a numbers geek and he's just so passionate about his flying. We'll wrap this video up here. All the links to everything you'll need are in the description. Please go and have a look. Please look at Colin Johnson's video. Hopefully it should give you more of a flavour of what's going on. But until next time, everybody, fly safe.